Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 211th
Knowledge Seekers.
Hello, Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, February 15th, 2018. And I think Mr. Keshe is eager to begin today's workshop by the sounds of a microphone coming open there. It seemed to be that that's true. I'm not clear on that yet. And I'm your host, Rick Crown. And yes, there's the voice that we're looking for. Thank you, Mr.
Yes. Hi, Rick. Sorry about that. Carry on.
Well, that's about it. We're just introducing the workshop 211. This one is, if you can imagine that, it is hard to imagine. And we've been looking at some of the earlier workshops and other teachings from the early times, what we call early times, which are 3 or 4 years ago. And it's quite interesting to see some of those initial workshops and reflect on some of the changes that have been happened through that time period, basically. And here we are today. And what do you bring today for topics, Mr. Keshe?
Yes, good morning, good day to you, as usual, wherever and whenever we join these knowledge seekers teaching programs. As we agreed a couple of weeks ago, last week and this week will be in answering some questions or ambiguity or explanation. And as part of it, we try to maybe teach some new and learn some new from each other. So we just wait and see what questions you might have to ask. There are a couple of points that I would like to refer to. First of all, today is the beginning of the Chinese New Year. We send you all our regards and the best wishes for the new year for the Chinese Keshe Foundations worldwide. And we hope the dog year will be a very nice year. It's a loyal, and it will stay that way. It'll be a prosperous year for humanity. I think today the what they call the Earth Council Constitution should be one of the Chinese languages if they are available to read it in celebrating the new Chinese New Year. And on the other hand, the rest of the operation of the Keshe Foundation is as normal and as what we call progressive in a positive way for what we are looking for and what we are achieving. We are still putting it out that, you know, we are looking for Keshe Foundation supporters who are looking to work with the foundation to do research development or join the manufacturing production side of the Keshe Foundation. Start registering your interest with the Keshe Foundation main web pages, as we will start calling on people who are in different nations or different part of the world to join us in setting up of the factories as we speed up in next 2-3 months. We need to do a lot of background work. It's a lot needs to be done. It's not easy after we can decide tomorrow and we'll start. If you have any kind of interest in teaching, in working with us in manufacturing, in design of new technologies, in software, in design, in everything possible, in retailing, in commercializing, in distribution, we are opening a massive expansion program, which is not starting, we're already in it, and it'll be made much more public in the coming weeks as we progress into dimensions of opening factories, and then the whole thing starts rolling in a very big way. Am I back on mine? Yeah. Sorry about that. I have to switch from one unit to another as we have some problem in reaching the other unit. Where am I?
You can go on your normal. It's open.
Oh, okay. Thanks very much. Can you switch that on, please?
Yes, I'm going to go.
Okay. What we see is We are requesting for everyone to join us. Now we have worked together to establish this ground, and now it's time for all of us to benefit by it. In a short time, we will explain more and more in this direction and in this position that we have. Sorry, we are back on the other system now that I've sorted out the problems behind it. So if you are in any shape or form and you've been looking for or be part of the Keshe Foundation worldwide operation, start registering your interest, start declaring what you want to do, what your interests are. We are not looking for anyone to set up manufacturing for us. We have organized all that through different dimensions and directions. We are looking for people who want to be part of the evolution of the new technology. Are there any questions? Today definitely won't have one from Azar. I think she's away.
I have a question about your last statement there about you're saying that, like, for example, if somebody wants to get involved in manufacturing, maybe they think they're a manager, maybe they'd like to be part of the assembly line, part of the procedure, or part of the manufacturing plant, let's say, or factory. What should they do? Is that like you said, you're not looking for people to do the manufacturing in a way because you have that set up the way you want to do that.
What?
How they get involved, I guess, is what I'm trying.
Okay, let me give you a structure what has happened and how the Keshe Foundation is evolved and evolving. We have now set up a manufacturing management team, which is spread across this planet, and we are adding more and more people into this section. What this means is that we have set up, now we are getting more and more into it. I think it'll be more or less complete in the next few weeks. That we have become what you call like a franchise system, like let's say Ford Manufacturing or another industrial organization which are replicating their business from one place to another. So all our factories are becoming standardized, which means all we need to do, find the premises, then according to the premises we adjust the setting, and we just put the machinery in and the plant starts working. It's got to the point that there is some what we call cleaning up or understanding or changing things, but more or less we'll see 3-4 factories coming up by June, July, like this. So we have set up the first factory, the framework for it, and it goes into operation sometimes in April. And then all we do, we copy paste type thing. The structure is set. Each factory we estimate costs around about $20 to $30 million operational, and all that has been organized, all is in progress of doing. We estimate within the next 2 years to 5 years to have between 300 to 500 factories. This is not a position of hoping to do. Everything has been organized for it. It's all on the move, but we have to do our work properly. We have a highly competent team, people who understand, and it's taken nearly 4 or 5 months for the team to work together to iron out everything else, plus what was done before. For this purpose, we have acquired Keshe Foundation Shenzhen in China has become part of the Keshe Foundation worldwide operation, which means the manufacturing, the setup of these pre-factory, prefabricated, all be assembled, all be done in China, and we just deliver systems after systems. It's very much like if say a franchise, like a McDonald's. We just given a shell, we fit it according to the shell. These things need a lot of people who understand the work of the nanotechnology and the gas production. on average, we see something between 500 to 1,500 people per factory employment. The reason for it is we see a three-shift move. We see to meet the demand because we see different dimension into manufacturing. We look for management. The management has to be people not just coming from outside. We made this mistake twice. We will not repeat it. Um, and we are looking for those in the Keshe Foundation who understand the work of the ganses, the work of nano coating, the ethos of the foundation. In our Italian operation, we brought a man who was highly valued in the Italian industrial scene. We paid him huge amount of wages, and then we found out the guy has got no clue from one end of the nanotechnology to another. And that was a very rough, harsh experience for us to learn. A lot of you who are in GAN's business and nano coating, you know how gently we handle nano coated materials, that they don't get damaged. I walked into the factory, it was a pile, heap of coils on top of it. I said, what are you doing? Oh, nothing, they're just ready to go. I said, this needs to be handled, cannot touch, you destroy nano layers. He says, oh, it's all the steel, it doesn't matter, it's just copper. And I realized we need a new generation of people. And this is why we're going back to public. We try to join the Keshe Foundation teaching programs, workshops, and learn as much as you can in the areas. We are expanding into the countries which are online for us now. Ghana is, we have our own team which are teaching. Italy, south of Italy is coming into production. Arizona is coming into production and research space development. Mexico, we we have purchased a land property which is part of the Keshe Foundation. South Africa, Australia, China are in the line by June, July to become part of. Hopefully we start with them at that time. And then we are looking at Kenya, Angola, Mozambique, South Africa. We are looking at Uganda. We are looking closely into possibly Morocco, which is one of our positions at the moment in Northern Africa. This brings us into Tehran, Iran, two positions. We are looking in the expansion in Saudi Arabia, and we are looking expansion in Middle East. United Arab Emirates as part of the Keshe Foundation establishment, possible serving manufacturing. We are looking into production in Israel. We are highly support the people who Jewish Keshe Foundation or in Israel. We are looking for establishment priority on Palestine. These are the freedom we have. We have no one to restrict us, and it brings a lot of employment. We are looking in the production in India. Pakistan is our front line. Philippines, Thailand. Australia is on the move of, they have already found, hopefully the premises we are looking for is just negotiating in the next few weeks if we can achieve it. New Zealand gets covered by Australia if we can, because the population is very small to support too remote. We are looking establishment of the Keshe Foundation, Japan, South Korea. These are on the horizon this year. We look at 10 different points in United States of America. We are looking at 3-point minimum in Canada. We have finances available for Brazil, Argentina. Mexico has already property been acquired. Our money is in Mexico. Documents we got signed and everything else which is going through. We are looking at Germany. Austria stays as a research center. The United Kingdom, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy is already committed. We have the properties that are working on it. It's going into the next phase of it. We are looking into just in one way or another in Romania, may possibly 1 or 2 positions. We are looking in Hungary. We are looking into Bulgaria and most probably Poland. Poland is one of our prime position investments in Europe. We are looking to invest in Greece. We have a very strong support in Greece. We are looking
to invest in Holland, in Norway, and a massive investment push in Russia, what we call the Russian area of the work of the Keshe Foundation. These are earmarked. And then China goes on its own with a massive support from the Keshe Foundation, the Chinese supporters of ours, which goes in its own direction. The reason we are looking at about 300 manufacturing minimum is that we are producing a new energy supply. We have to do it from zero to everything else. When you start producing gas waters for everything else, and you're trying to support a nation, a 10,000 square meter factory is not enough. Does not matter how much we produce, because we have a ratio of what we can do. These lead us as, in a way, if you look at it, I was explaining to one of the top guys in the very recent past. We have so many nations together, they put 85 million barrel of oil to support our industrial developments of past centuries, the cars, the factories, and it's just oil. Now we are bringing such a product, not only has to suffice for our energy development, it has to suffice for our agriculture, medicine, health applications, the space program, energy program, material production, and then you see the scope of the work which is ahead. It's not just opening one factory will do. Each factory, we are planning 5 factories in Nigeria, you're talking about minimum 10 to 20,000 people employment. In the oil industry, we dig the oil out. We have managed to structure a whole oil industry in how we can use this liquid. In our technology, we have to produce the raw material from GANs, from anything to the point of use, where we can use these energies in different aspects as gravitational-magnetic field purposes. Now you can see the task. When we say 500 factories in the next 3 years is not enough. There is a whole technology industry is getting built up, especially all the new machineries to support these factories. We are setting up in accordance with the Chinese, because there is no other nation who can support such a transition. Everything is available. We do not see the heart of the technology, industrial technology has been taken out of Europe and America, and they cannot support such a rapid development. Being able to produce huge numbers of the systems that can produce thousands of tons of GaNs and nano-coated material in an appropriate way, that every single one is the same as you go to McDonald's in New York or in London or in Beijing or in Africa, they all taste the same and look the same and they deliver the same. And this is part of the work we have to do. Setting up a new energy industry from scratch, which can feed into every aspect of the need, is going to be colossal, but it had to start. Now consensus has been achieved, documents have been signed, human resources have been put behind it, and it'll become, it creates one of the biggest world operations as a what we call plasma industrial revolution. It's not a talk anymore. It is done, as I said, in the next few days, hopefully once our team finishes with it, we announce the establishment of the market value shareholding company, which will be shared between 2 or maybe 3 nations who can support such a huge step. We stand solid in our support and collaboration and cooperation with the Chinese people, Chinese government, and we still totally committed to peace. We do not compromise. Now you understand when we say we have so many. I see in the next 10 years very much fuel production, which is a gas production, nanomaterial production, gases of different, what they call materials. We only touch 5 or 6. There is over 200 of them to be produced for different aspects. When we come to do the feeding station in disaster area, we cannot just give the body CO2 and maybe some zinc oxide. We have to develop a technology of the feeding in disasters or in the space, where you can give from the phosphor, from the calcium, from potassium, from everything which the body needs. When you go into a station feed, you have to receive everything, otherwise you have deficiencies in the body of the man. And these are in progress, they are in development. They have to be developed by all of us. This is the only way we can make mankind independent of finances. Poor or rich, you can walk through the same box, you receive the same energy. The box does not distinguish between a color, race, or religion. And this is what our target is, and this we are there. We are, well, I thank with all my gratitude to the Chinese government and the Chinese authorities who work with us so hard, and in turn with others who are in that position to do. You will see, as I said, I've committed to Keshe Foundation and my life to the Chinese governments and Chinese people, because it's the only way we can see a peaceful nation. A nation which spends all his wealth as improving his nations, his citizens. And now with what we see, the layout of His Excellency President Xi as one belt, one road, that breaks right away through where we want to be. The collaboration with Keshe Foundation and Chinese authorities will be announced beyond limitation. And it's the only way we can establish peace, when we can bring equal to everyone by all measures. In due course, you will understand. We'll be based in the United States as an operational center, and in China, 2 positions. And between the two, we guarantee peace. And this is one of the reasons in the past few days, if you have heard, we invited the Israelis and the Iranians to collaborate together in plasma technology, because it's time for peace. The establishment, the mechanism to achieve it has been set. Now is delivering it, which needs a lot of wisdom, it needs a lot of understanding. And in so many ways, as I said, with the Chinese New Year comes a lot of new things for humanity, and in that way, we commit ourselves to peace. This is what it needs. So if you are interested in any shape or form or size in being part of developing different aspects of being in collaboration to guarantee pleasurable work, not just to work for the foundation, we are opening these factories on this basis. It's a mass industrial revolution change. And it's not just one of us, it's all of us. We've done it together. Now it's time to stand for what we stood as a piece, as ethos of the work. Sharing knowledge unconditionally, and allowing everyone to be trusted, that we can share without being intruded or be stolen from. We saw one with Mr. Lin in China, intruding into others and saying, is there any patterns? Please boycott any purchase from this gentleman. Because otherwise, if we don't stop this, others will follow. Respect each other's, otherwise we go back into pattern, back into all the misconduct of the before, and hiding, there is no pattern, I didn't do, I don't do. I strongly advise to boycott any purchase from Mr. Lin. He supplies like motors, and because he's broken the ethos of the foundation beyond. He's taken things from the Keshe Foundation we gave him to design for this, for development of the technology for all of us, and the same from the others we receive complaint about him taking their technology and life work. We have to set the ethos. We have to work. If you are a Chinese supporters, if they are working in China, do not purchase anything from this gentleman whatsoever. It's not to setting example, it's for him to understand that the ethos of the foundation is very, very simple. We work, we share, and if we share, we have to respect each other's knowledge and what we call work. This is what's going to be. We openly work, but we have openly to respect each other. Offering motors cheaper to the Chinese and charging the Americans triple and quadruples because they can pay, and then delivering broken, or they call it damaged machines that I do things I can replace. It doesn't work that way. And you don't go on the internet stealing other people's work. And especially we can deliver designs which was given to him to develop the new lines of the space reactors, and it's been put in the market on the back of the foundation's work. without any respect for anyone. These things have to stop. I open my patents to be free. No one can claim if you have a patent, I don't repeat. We have to set up example, because as we open up the market for each other's knowledge, it has to be freely respected. If we see copying of any of your designs and works in another country, because of the rules and regulations, you have to come to an agreement with each other in each section. This is how the Keshe Foundation is going to work. You come to us with a product, we see it, we might be able to evolve it, to change it, to do something with it. You'll be benefit by it, because it's you who's brought it in. And this has been in strict instruction to all the Keshe Foundation manufacturing teams. Respect each other's work. We might repeat it, for example, in America, because then we don't need to create the import licenses and all the conditions, because it'll be introduced in America and creates job in America. It doesn't mean that we copy it separately to overcome things, but at the same time we respect the designer, the inventor of it. There'll be a lot of paperwork, a lot of us getting what they call worked with it, but at least it keeps us busy, because we all receive what we need from it. What I urge you, please, if you see, if you try, you see somebody else coming up with an idea on the internet, which is something you can do because you're in China or somewhere else, or you have access facilities, go back to the designer. Make amicable arrangement that you're both happy, and it's blessed, and then it's shared the soul, and then you all succeed. Do not push with this, what is called the stealing pattern of patents. We have a huge discussion in Chinese community regarding Mr. Lin's behavior, and they don't understand. Now they understand he's stolen more or less technologies, as we call it in the modern time. We can submit the pictures and diagrams, technical diagrams which was given to produce the course to him, and now it's appeared out of nowhere, selling it and everything else. These are stealings which we have to stop. Stealing from the soul. This is what we said, "Thou shalt not steal." And now the Chinese community knows why we, the Keshe Foundation, stood firm. Because it is wrong. Many Chinese will come up with new designs, and people like him trying to do marketing without them, and then trying to benefit by it and destroying the others, calling them whatever, then it destroys your work. If we stop this process from now, that we are in the infancy of mass production of products around the world, we stop the whole thing of the patents and the rest of it. You design, you know how to make nanocode. Try to support the teaching classes and the teachers which have been licensed by the Keshe Foundation through our distribution and the teaching side. Build up your knowledge, how to do, what to do. And we try to put most of the teaching for the factories in these trainings, in these workshops. That when we come to your place, when we come to your country, when there is opportunity to be, you are ready plus the others. The training, or called pre-training, is done. Accra will employ 1,500 people. We have to train 1,450, 90 of them. Those of you who became part of the Keshe Foundation through the love of the knowledge and the technology, you can become teaching these people. Because it's not just teaching you don't do, you have to transfer the essence of the soul of the teaching to the people who work for us. It's not I'm going to work 9 to 5, I'm going to work to change the society and what we had. This is how it should be. We need every aspect of the knowledge. Being a doctor, we need you. Being a engineer, you work in the space program, you work in the high level computer programs, you work in factory laying out, factory production, you're a plumber, you're architect, we need all of you. Keshe Foundation website, send your request in, send your expertise in. We go to, this is how we establish now our, the manufacturing people. We just went through CMR with people who've been with the foundation. We just look for them, they're there, we go to them, would you like to join? This is what we are prepared to pay as a, what do you call it, the salary. And this is how we have recruited most of them. We are recruiting most of our people. We look into the expertise, security matters, and then you're employed. We're talking about 300 factories, 1.5, 2,000 people per factory. Then you can see the scale. This is just what works. And then you have all the backup facilities and the support which comes with it. All the manufacturing and the rest of it. As I've said before, we support to the way to establish peace and be able to achieve it through industrial transformation is through one nation, and we see it through one belt, one road program, President G. Because we can deliver the technology, what is the dream of peace, of equality by the Chinese people. Go on the internet, look for President Xi's initiative over the past 5 years as what is known as One Belt, One Road, which brings all the Silk Road, all the Sea Road, Harrods, which been for centuries now. Equality that all the nations on the Silk Road, all the way to South Africa, through the oceans, through the Central Asia, through the passage through the Southern Seas, Philippines, Thailand, all get benefited to become equal, that humanity becomes equal in all. And the vision of President Xi is the vision of Keshe Foundation. It's the only way we can bring peace. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. There's a couple of people that had their hand up here. Allow Zhao, I believe is the name, and John Wells as well. Promote you. And so is the name Zhao from Del Batista Jure de Carmango Rangel? Do you want to unmute yourself and go ahead?
Yes, I'm talking from Brazil. Thank you. Mr. Keshe, we are waiting your answers about the Brazilian factory. How do you think about?
That also to do with Klaus and the cash manufacturing, and we are looking into it, what is available. This is handled by this section which is set up for these things, and Brazil is, we looked at a couple of properties which were not fitting our way, and I think there's one more or two more on the discussion table. I've seen communications in the background. The Mexico property has been purchased. Brazil, the Brazilian line of communication, which they have their own net, you have to go through them, and it's getting done. But you got to realize, still, as we informed all the Keshe Foundations, till Accra and most probably Italy fully completed in the next couple of months, at least Accra, that we see all the mistakes in the production line. We are not leading to opening up the others, because whatever is done, once we establish the 100% correct, all the systems response is correct, then for us to produce is a matter of copy paste. It's taken months for a team of what do you call it, the specialists, to even come up with containers which can take the right pressure. When it was tested, built, it collapsed, so we had to redesign, and it's been going on. For example, the machinery is the same. So as all the people around the foundation who work, I mean, setting up, we are doing as of 1st of March, because Accra more or less is finished for us, is the delivery condition which is holding. We move into layout of the factory in Mexico and Italy, and then we go to, I know Brazil, we are negotiating, there is a property in Romania which is done, Australia with I think 13,000 square meter of factory is on the table we are looking at. We don't have the financial restriction. The only thing we have decided collectively in the management that we fully run Accra in a full operation, find out with all the mistakes or what it needs to be changed, and then it takes us a very few weeks to do the rest. Everything else is done. But as we said, with all our everyone who's around the foundation in manufacturing, we got delayed by 2 months because of uh, what we call 2 points. First of all, we expanded the factory in Accra from 1 to 3, and then nearly now 10,000 square meter. It has to be finished to be handed over. Then we can place all our what you call machinery and establishment inside, run it for at least 4 weeks to see if there is anything needs to be adjusted, and then it's just paste copy. And then our plan is 1 factory a week. We have a very good team of system control people in Canada who are marvelous in their work. We have a beautiful architects in London who are all behind it. We have a manager of the whole Keshe Foundation operation manufacturing from Paris. Uh, and it's a lot of people working. It's a good team of people in Shenzhen which are responsible for every single piece which is going out to the factories. It's a lot of work. It is not something that it can be done in 1 day, and it's no use opening the other factories if we see a problem in one place. And this has to be done. It has to be, it's a fully operational computerized system. It's pharmaceutical level. Once we run it, it's paste and copy. Mexico, Brazil, you have Mexico, we were given a very good opportunity. We have a reason we purchased the property in Mexico. The same goes, we will purchase the property in Australia. It's a fantastic site. It gives us a huge opportunity to meet the need of the nation. They've got the power shortages that we can bring in that way. The what you call the Romanian stays the same, but as we all said, they all understand, we have to wait till the test setup of Accra comes in, see what we need to adjust, and then it's copy paste. We have a good expert teams in London who are ready to go for setting up the factories. We have the management manufacturing team is bunch of experts people, and they're traveling all over the world to get things done to be done correctly. You have to wait till same Brazil. We see Brazil sometime in back end of June, July that we move in and we can go. But we have to have data's complete confirmed that the production of the materials and the goods are according to international standard and according to FDA and the standard boards around the world. We are very open about what we're doing because we don't have anything to be worried about or be afraid of. The time of what we got harassed by a bunch of what I call headless chickens in Europe is over. You will never see us setting up a factory in the state of Belgium. No way. We support Holland, we support France and what you call Italy and France. We don't consider that there is a need to worry about anything, but at the same time we are very open about it. We say where it is, what we are doing, and the state we are. We opened the space in Accra with the property which has been given to us by the Italians for the first spaceship center for Africa. We are committed to a huge amount of investment into Ghana Space Center. But we have to run a factory that the fuel we produce for a space program for Africa meets the need. I see a list of nations who are talking to us in the background for the factories. They're all looking for premises and whatever we are still working on. But at the same time, they're all aware Accra has a priority to come into operation, that we can literally see. Nigeria is running into operation with Alex at the moment. We've seen, we authorized the opening of the teaching center in Kenya, because we need to teach people to understand that we can employ them accordingly, that we don't have the problems we had in other factories.
Okay,
Any
thank
other
you, Mr.
question?
Keshe.
You're welcome. We're committed to us. Brazil is the same as what you call Italy, the same as Mexico, the same as United States, the same as Australia. It's one family, and none of us would like to waste time and finances in making mistakes and then trying to correct it. And there's no jealousy, it's all equality, and we're doing it the same way. But you have to understand, our openness is our strength. It's taken us years to get to the point we are. Now we are opening these stations. What do you call, Arizona Research Center and the manufacturing is going to be a huge burden on the Keshe Foundation. Especially this year, trying to bring so many scientists together to be able to do it. Any other question?
There's questions on live stream, but I'm not so sure if they're appropriate about, as Jan says, he's worked with the large international companies at the management level and can assure the biggest challenge will be recruitment of skilled people. What is the plan to attract skilled managers, etc.? And after all, without a well worked out business plan, not much will be executed.
We don't have a problem in that section. We don't disclose, but we don't have a problem in that section.
Right.
We
Well,
have
he also
some of the best managers who brought the nation out of poverty to one of the richest stand with us. You got to realize all the best managers don't come from United States or Europe. The best managers come from the places where you see 8-10% growth, or you see the nation moving from one status to another. And secondly, is collective, and the way we structure the Keshe Foundation is central management. We can bring anybody, and at the same time, the management team, the core management team, monitors everything and develops new style of managers to work with our ethos, not before. Our bottom line is not profitability. Our bottom line is peace. And you try to explain that to managers, they walk away. And those who are managed and taught by the Keshe Foundation work in that direction.
there's some that are concerned about where all the funds are coming from, but I don't think that's appropriate to reveal sources and whatnot.
We don't need to disclose.
Right.
No, nobody has made a, what do you call it, 100 million contribution to the Keshe Foundation. And we haven't seen, only people who have a very little ever, they have contributed that little they have to the foundation. All the ones who've been benefiting, selling things, have been putting in their pocket. So you never ask where it comes from. We are correct in our way, and we don't need to respond to no one that we see anything else.
Okay, thank you.
There's one thing surely doesn't come from British government or Belgian government. No blood money and no stolen money and the murder machinery. That's for sure.
So someone like that might have business experience, they can apply to the Keshe Foundation at the either as a volunteer or possibly even as a job opportunity.
Yes,
They
it's the
have
same.
to. They can. I'll put the link into the chat so that we have that now from the human resources part of the website. So that's something you can apply to, and once you pass through security and so on, then we can start to communicate with what your skills are and try to get things matched up with people's skills versus what's required for the current moment, basically. And it changes from moment to moment. Is that not correct, Mr. Keshe? It's so fast moving right now that
Now we are.
so it's a good time for people to get sort of in on the ground floor, literally in some cases, of these new factories and so on.
As what Caroline says, the main thing for us is to carry the ethos of the foundation. The whole process is that we have to learn a new way, and that even in the long run, our factories become part of the structure of the society. But this is the only way we can guarantee the looking after of those who need looking after, not just financially, but in other ways. The problem is huge. The problem we face as the Keshe Foundation is what the nations have ignored. This is the problem. Whatever has been ignored, now we have to address, and we have to address equally, irrespective of other things. This thing that we are better, we are the Iranians, we are the better blood, and we are Germans, we are better than we are the Russians, and we are better, has to die within the soul of the man. And this takes a lot of work. It's not easy to understand how the foundation works. And people who have the ethos of the foundation come in to do, and are very straightforward because they know what the foundation stands for. We recently had one of the Keshe Foundation supporters, knowledge seekers around the back, around of the foundation, joining us in the management, and he said, I'm here for separate things, because he worked in the same ethos of the foundation. And it was easy for him to understand where we go and what he was doing, and he decided to move out. It's amazing how people who work our way, think our way, do our way things too. And this is part of the change. And it'll take time, but it will come in a smooth way. Massive employment are line, when we're talking about 300, if you go to 1,500 people, you're talking about 500,000 people in the next 5 years working momentarily through the Keshe Foundation. And then all the auxiliaries which goes with it, you're talking millions. And it's a new industry. It's the same as what it was with the computers. We brought what we call the computer Silicon Valley out of United States. We bring what we call the plasma technology and plasma value out of China. Because it's the only way it can be done, that the resources are there to be done. And the commitment is there, which is the same ethos as us, which is for peace and evolution of the jobs. And we have to see how we go, and it goes with other nations accordingly. It's not the small back of the job in the back kitchen doing things. This is very open and straightforward. At the same time, through our operation, bringing the more major powers in the world to work together towards the direction of peace. It'll take some adjustment, but it'll be done. Because financially and employment-wise and security-wise, it's benefit to all.
Mr. Keshe mentioned that many of the jobs, or not jobs, but operations of the factory will be automated. So I'm wondering what kinds of jobs will be available for these people that will be involved in the factories. Obviously, there'll be some maintenance of equipment and operations of those machines and so on. But if will it be mostly automated in terms of the manual labor type jobs? Is that the way you see it in the future?
It's a combination. It mainly comes through innovation. I think the innovation of the technology will employ huge number of people. Um, we are designing literally now machinery which fits into the plasma technology and didn't exist. At the moment we are commissioning on 2-3 systems like this, and it's going to be many more of them. The we To be on the medicals, on the pharmaceutical, we have to be fully automized, computerized, and this is what's been achieved by our team. To be in a mass production of equipment and pieces, it still is a partially automatic, partially human resources. To be the way we see it, to um, produce items or products that is needed by 80 to 90% of the population is our target. We are not going for niche, maybe some will be, but the product range is to be able to touch every man's need every day, which means in let's say 10 years time, where if you shop, let's say 100 items, 10 to 15 of it has to be connected somehow with the Keshe Foundation, minimum. Then this brings a position of, as we consume, as we produce, we create enough wealth that we don't need to work 48 weeks a year. We work, we understand, work maybe 1 or 2 months a year, but what is being made, facilitated, allows us to spend the other times to evolve in the direction of serving. Service industry in the right way should not be a slavery. It should be a pleasure. And this takes a lot of changes, but we see it can be done. If we are paid according to what we need to live a comfortable life, and we live a comfortable life, then people's ideas of owning more and more will change. It's not communism, it's a satisfaction of the soul of the man. It's not that we pay you all this, no. We provide all this, that what man has the pleasure to do.
Mr. Keshe, there's a question about, is there an age limit? I'm realizing a lot of countries have regulations, and that would be the local regulations that would kick in for minimum age for someone to be employed. Or, but in some countries, they may not have those rules and regulations. So what would be the policy of the Keshe Foundation?
We obey by the national regulations. But there is one thing that we do not accept, and we made that clear in 2 or 3 occasions now. We do not accept 60 and 65 as the age of retirement. Age of retirement and man wants to stop working has to be option for the man, not by the books. Many of the diseases which the Western world is fighting with and the old age is created by the enforced unemployment. Productive people are imprisoned in the 4 walls of their life at the age of 60. And that cannot be. A man can be productive even at 200 years old. It has to be the freedom that we can serve. And this takes a lot of things out of pension policies and the problems we have. But in so many ways, when we meet most of the demands through one way or another of the technology, this shouldn't be hard. There is one thing, there is a minimum age which is below 18 should not be allowed. But if we have a genius in the world of the understanding of the plasma at the age of 5 or 10 or 20 or 16 or 200, they should all be respected for the knowledge. And this is a big difference. But minimum age, work minimum age has to be abided by, because the child should have a life of a child. And man should have enough time to mature his soul. We think 18, sometimes even 30 is not enough.
What about the idea of children's education, about GANs and nanomaterials and all of the technology, all of this plasma science. I mean, that would be good, obviously, to start at an early age, but I think we've talked about this somewhat, and maybe it should be produced in a way that's really fun for kids, and rather than the school learning kind of way of doing it.
The way we started children teaching about 4 or 5 years ago was with fun. I always said physics has to be fun, otherwise it's not physics. Any teaching has to be fun. Not all of us are physicists, or they'll end up to be doctors, they'll be designers, they'll be musicians, there'll be all sorts, which can bring the whole thing in different way. But child education is part of what is goes to the KFSSI with Jim, and this is part they have to develop. That is done. We made 2-3 attempts for child education, but now with the changes in the direction of the manufacturing and the capabilities of the foundation, in each country we have to look at how we can teach, and it has to be taught very early ages, that they understand our ethos, our way, and how they can do things and how they can survive in depth of this space. I don't. This is something which we are doing. I've explained that to one of our team members. We are setting up 50 PhDs. The foundation is paying for 50 PhD places in one of the universities, and what I've said to the whole structure is that our PhDs should not be more than 1 year, because the response of the GANs and nanomaterials is so rapid that this time wasting of 3 or 4 years just paying for somebody to do something is not needed. So we are even introducing new style of teaching at a higher level. We have a sponsored next Friday. I'm in a meeting that we sponsored 50 PhD places, but under conditions of the Keshe Foundation for what we want to have, because the response is so fast. What's the use of wasting 3 years just waiting and playing diddly dum diddly do? The whole process of teaching has to change. And youngsters are part of it, because they see the world different than we do, and most probably a lot of solutions will come from our youngsters than our what I call highly educated with PhD and 20 years of experience, because they're locked into the mentality and they have to justify everything by formulas, where formulas has no meaning to children. They look at the natural process. We need to strengthen the KFSI children program, and it'll be done that way. But don't forget, now we're going into national levels and international levels. Most probably a lot of it becomes debatable how we can do the way we can do, and how safe is for a child to be near a guns, or how can he fly a system with his thoughts. I always say the first child who start teaching, being actively, progressively involved in what do you call, teaching of the plasma, understanding of plasma, they poisoned him with cyanide, didn't they? Thanks to those who live within the boundaries of what I call forbidden nation. But children have to be nourished and looked after and taught the technology from the base. Any other question?
John Wells had his hand up. John, did you have something you wanted to say or ask there?
I just want to comment the difficulty we have for the letters or the contacts we send to the foundation are not being answered. So we're sort of
Excuse me, let me address this. Don't expect to be answered just because you send something and you expect it. A lot of people send things to the foundation, they expect to be answered. We receive so much, and what is need, what we see essential at the time to be answered, it gets answered. If you just, what do you call it? I get this complaint that you are very slow in responding. We respond when it's needed to be responded, because a lot of people send a lot of things. We respect you, you think it's important to you to be done. If it goes to the right place and there is an answer to be done, it gets addressed. But you have to understand where you're sending the information to that you get the right response.
Where are you sending things, John, where you're not getting a response, or where are people complaining about that?
To the KFSSI. 6 months ago, I had sent something. I had no answer. I've sent it again.
To where?
What
What do
is you sending?
SSI? What are you talking about? To the student application to apply to be a student, or for as a student?
I am a student. As a teacher, I've been asked to be a teacher. I still haven't had an answer for the certificate. I've been teaching for the last year and a half, and I don't.
Yes, you see, let me address. We have a lot of people who want to be teacher in KFSSI. We have a limited, and especially the new management which is taking the course by Jim, he has decided how to concentrate the teaching. Because he was, as I understood, he has a fully free hand, and is in consultation with the management team of the Keshe Foundation and with the head of the Keshe Foundation, Ella. Just because you want to teach, we have to accept. We have so many people who would like to teach. As I understand, Jim can address it too, because I think it should be in the background. We take teachers who we see to be necessary for our live teaching, or because it's a live teaching you do every day between 9 and 5 o'clock. If you want to teach, then you have to go to the KFSSI, which appoints teachers, workshops. That's a
I've done,
different section. And then that goes to Kevin Blundell, it's his section.
I've done so. I've
So,
been teaching for the last year and a half. I don't consider myself needing a piece of paper to teach. I've been teaching every day,
no,
25.
no, I understand that. Thank you very much. But if you're asked to teach, if it goes into our daily teaching program, or it goes as teachers to would like to be like, well, just you want to teach you how they can help. It has to go into KFSSI. It's got nothing to do with KFSSI when it goes into the teaching in your country. If you want to teach in your country support unit, this goes in the, it goes in section. Kevin Blundell, he's responsible for this section.
Yeah, that's the workshops. Let's be clear that that's the workshops, holding a workshop with on-site people in a location.
If you are
Yeah.
Pardon?
Here in Argentina, workshops don't work. I mean, you don't charge for teaching. I teach free, gratis, and for nothing.
You don't need to charge. Workshops doesn't mean charging.
Exactly. That's my.
Workshops doesn't mean Dr. Guata does all the workshops. It's not by charging. It's just the reason we set up. Let me explain. I understand part of it is Kevin Blundell is there, can answer you. What I understand is done by the team this way, is that we have categorized how much your level of understanding is, that to what level you can teach. It's not you don't need the paper. If you know the nano coating, or you go into the space level, or you go into dynamic system, or you're a doctor, you want to do medical, each one allows for people to know what level you teach at. It's a guideline for people, not for you how good you are. And we had to set it, but we had to put these things on it, that people knew. They go to a teaching and say, oh, the guy only knows the technology, cannot go, but I wanted to know about dynamic system. This guy does not have the extent of knowledge to go to dynamic system. And it's getting classified in ABC, if I understand, and level 1, level 2, level 4, whatever. And these are set up for you if you're looking for health teaching. There are these people who teach health in a dynamic system or in a static system, or these people are good to nanotechnology or theoretical or whatever. It doesn't mean anything else. The reason this has come up is for people to be free to choose and to understand. I want to learn Spanish because I speak Spanish, but I live in Italy or I live in South Africa. So that processes are set up that way. It doesn't mean anything else. You don't need to teach.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree with what you're saying and thinking. I've been asked to to what do you call it? Ask for this certificate to be able to get it, take charge of the Spanish teaching. Um, I'm just waiting. I haven't stopped doing what I've been doing for the last 2 years.
Yeah,
And
but I understand very well what you're talking about. Please go to the right. If you send it to KFSSI, you won't get a response. You have to go to the section for the workshops and teaching. You get the immediate. Kevin Blundell is fantastic in responding. I think less than 5 seconds on his computer is too late.
well, his computer must be broken down with Argentina, because I've written.
Well, wait a minute here. What are we talking about? Are you talking, John? You were talking about the Spanish Knowledge Seekers Workshop, being a teacher for that, correct? Which is coming up. It's every Wednesday at 1900 hours Central European Time. I've got a message here from Ursula that they need a teacher for that. There's over 700 students and they don't have a Spanish teacher.
Exactly.
So
is that what you wanted to apply?
I'd like to have some fluid communication with somebody there. Kevin hasn't answered my letters, so well, what can I do?
Well, Kevin's not part of that. Kevin does the workshops, the hands-on workshops, not that workshop. He has nothing to do with that.
That
who is Rick, where can he go? Who is this? Is Jim online?
You need to talk to Jim directly.
Yeah, Mr. Keshe.
Jim, how can you help him?
All right. We've already been helping John and Ursula in that I have instructed them that they need to work together to get the Spanish teaching sorted out. So I don't quite understand why he's saying he's not been replied to. It's because it's up to, it's in their hands now how they want to take that Spanish teaching.
So you've been in touch with him, with Jim, with John?
Yes, Jim's
so
letter.
we've been emailing both John.
And Fernando.
Pardon?
And there's also Fernando from Mexico, yes.
Yeah, but you say you have got no response for 6 months and the head of the Keshe Foundation teaching is online.
I haven't had a response from Kevin. Jim, yes.
If your Jim handles you, you don't go to Kevin. If they already decided where you sit, that's where you sit. You can't go between them. If you will still want to do your private workshop teaching, that's separate. You go to Kevin. If you want to teach in the foundation, you already been responded by Jim, and you've been asked to participate in the Spanish teaching.
Well, Jim has asked me to get in contact with Kevin, so I've done what he's asked.
That's for the workshops, not for the teachings. Foundation has different channels. You have to sit if you've been asked to help with the
we have to watch out for the words, Mr. Keshe, because when you said workshops, it is the Knowledge Seekers Workshop in Spanish that's to be taught on the Wednesdays, but that's different than the hands-on workshops. So we have a bit of a trouble with using the same word for two different sort of whole different categories of teaching.
I do continue this. I'll get into contact with Jim again and sort this out. Yes, please.
Yeah, sort of. According to Jim, is what they need your help, and they already instructed you where to go.
Yeah, it should be. It should all match together. You would think there. So, unless there's some other issue that needs to be worked out.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other question?
Yeah, sorry to get so involved in all that, but it might be
We
sort of
have to.
helpful.
We have
Yeah,
to.
it's helpful.
That's why we should have had these question times at least once every 3 months or so. That letting it drag on. Um, so if it is that we have to address, these are part of the teaching, the same as we teach about the soul and everything else. We have to sort these things out, and now it's there. We have to space it and walk the next step.
Okay, got a question in live stream from Wolfgang, who also put it, I think, in the chat here. It says, Mr. Keshe, do you have any comment how to act best in Germany for teaching and manufacturing due to the, quote, special system in Germany?
What is the special system in Germany?
I'm not sure. It's kind of...
Yeah, let's understand the special system.
We're supposed to be a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, understand what the special system is in Germany.
We had some people teaching in Germany, set up workshops, and we received a lot of complaints with it, and we stopped it. We disassociated the foundation from it, and then they tried to carry on their own. The manufacturing went the same way. There was a lot of misunderstanding in how they wanted to do it, and they tried different things, and then we found that there was other problem with knowledge seekers and development on it. Germany is covered by Klaus. There is a German speaking setup there. Klaus, are you there? You can explain this more in detail, because you are hands-on with Germany and Austria.
Yes, I'm here.
And just so I say, Wolfgang mentions that the political system and the force on people is what he means by that special system in Germany. Maybe Klaus
I thought Germany was a free nation.
I thought I thought so too. Wasn't that the whole idea?
Rick, this question does not concern our setup of the workshops and the teaching. It is more or less a topic which comes up teaching in schools, in public schools. So this has nothing to do with the Keshe Foundation education setup.
And also the official manufacturing was the other part of that too, which is again a different category altogether.
Official manufacturing in Germany will go as the rest of the work with the Keshe Foundation global operation. The Keshe Foundation global operation will cover Germany. Germany is one of the major points for us for manufacturing, and we already work with what do you call it, German structure for some of our work. It just needs, like everybody else, gotta wait till we do to finish the job to do, because MagRab system has shown positive dimensions in Germany. A lot of Germans are making a lot of pieces and they're selling it on the internet in different ways, showing crystals, pens, and whatever they set up. They sell all sorts of things. They do a number of workshops. As we saw some problem with one German workshop which went totally on its own and its own leg, and we blocked it because it was going the wrong way as we saw it. We bring manufacturing into Germany in a very big way. I see something like 15 to 20 factories needed across Germany in the next 10 years, maybe more. And in time I explain why and the reason we see it. The German structure will come through the Keshe Foundation global operation. We will do, and will comply with all the rules and regulations of government with it. To employ this kind of people, we set up our own teaching structure. There is a work in the background going with part of the Keshe Foundation management team that the teaching is getting done like video manually, that people can see, especially if we have a high employment, that the videos will be made just be subtitled to different languages. This work is already, I think the head of the Keshe Foundation, if Ella is there, can tell us how it's developing. We are standardizing all the teachings for all the factories, and Where it goes, public teaching with it. Is Ella there? Or she's been working late? We don't have her there to tell us. Any other question?
I'm here.
Oh, Ella is there. Ella, could you enlighten us what's going on, please?
Yes, we are working in standardizing the structures so we can save the time of the people that will be doing the trainings and also improve the efficiency of the people receiving the trainings. So even if they would be receiving the training personally, they would still have a material, a training material to return to in case that they miss something, or maybe they will understand it better the second or the third time they are watching it. So it's more on constructing a knowledge base which can be easily accessible throughout the foundation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yes, if you look in past few minutes, you realize how big and international the foundations become. You got a person from Australia, Jim, who was part of the education. You got Klaus from Austria. You get Ella from Romania. And they all, and as you need, there are people in there. You have Kevin Blunder from Canada. You have Wins from Canada. We become very multinational and we're all hands-on. We sit in these teachings to be able to see what we can add up and we can add on to. It's not a one man, one teaching anymore. It's a huge, huge structure in the background. And more we're appointing and finding people who have more speciality and they come in to deliver what they have. You go from, and if you look at it, the time zone, some of you are 9 o'clock in the morning and some of us 2 or 3 o'clock in midnight. You're still there to be there to support. It's being part of. No organization in the world is delivering the way we are delivering technology with it, everything else, education and everything else. On regular basis, every day, week in, week out, teachings, week in, week out. And we do it without the fear, without being doing coded something, hiding somewhere, very openly. As I said very recently, if you see with all the problems which the American government has caused for the Iranians, Keshe Foundation has not been touched, not even by Chinese, because we are correct in our conduct. And we cover all the nations openly. Some of you might appreciate what it means to have such a freedom. It's a treasure, especially in these times, that anybody can be accused of anything to be put on. Our freedom to share freely is the key to our what we call success in sharing knowledge. And that's all we are doing. We are fighting, actually, if you listen to most of these questions, is how can I teach more? None of you, if you even speak to John, is fighting to teach more. I want to teach more, what can I do? And this is the beauty of the new age, new era. We are fighting, we are discussing that I cannot teach more. How are you going to get me more? Can I have the factory to do more? None of us is talking how we can suppress or start something opposite or something against somewhere. And this is the beauty of it. Just stand still and listen to this conversation in the past few minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes. We're all asking, we want more, we want it for us, we want it now. We want to share now, we want to teach now. And it's very unusual. It's very unusual behavior.
Yeah, Mr. Keshe, the first question in the Q&A, which I answered just by text, was from Nikolai. He says, I'm from Bulgaria and we are ready. Who do I have to contact to start the paper processing? You know, this is exactly what you're saying. People are just coming forward and offering.
I would like to add some information, Rick and Mr. Keshe. KFSSI Education, more than a year ago, created IDs for public and private teachings for more than 20 languages. If you go to our official YouTube channel, you see the playlist for the public teachings in languages. If you go to the education site as a student, you can find also the private teachings in languages. Those that would like to teach need to contact Jim on educationkfssi.org. The IDs are created, the infrastructure is ready. And at a certain moment, we had like 18 languages teaching in parallel. Some of the languages are still very active: French, German, Hungarian, Polish, Romanian. They're teaching every week. French and German and Polish are teaching even more than once per week. So if you would like to teach, you need to talk, you get the IDs, you become the host on these IDs, you get on schedule. This schedule is published to students every week. It's very easy. It exists, it's there. These recordings that you can see actually were done through this infrastructure. We offered this more than a year ago, so I think that you can sort this out very quick.
Of course, this is the voice of Mr. what I call webmaster, one of the 3 webmasters of the Keshe Foundation. And Stanley is more or less more keyed up to the education side. Keshe Foundation has a team of webmasters, and each one have their own specialty.
Perhaps we could give the website address out for people that would be at kfssi.org. Flint has education at kfssi.org. Is that the address you mean, Stanley?
Yeah, it's an email.
Yeah, education@kfssi.org. It's an email where you can reach Jim McDonald. Jim is head of KFSI Education and responsible for content and schedule. So you need to talk with him first to tell him your intention. After the short talk, he will forward you to me just to get the IDs. In the recent days, we just gave the IDs for the public and private teachings in Farsi and for the public and private teachings in Bengali. So it's an ongoing process. It's very easy. So if you really have an intention to start teaching, I think this can be sorted out within the week. Flynn takes over the training for you to show you a few tricks in the Zoom, how to host. And this is it. This is how we do it. And all the recordings are done automatically to cloud. You don't need to take care about them. We publish them. If this is the public teaching, it's published on the YouTube channel in the playlist for the public teachings in this and this language, and in the same time to the education site. If it's private teaching, it's published only on the education site, available only to registered students. So as you can see, education@kfssi.org is an email where Jim is talking with you about the content of the teaching, the program, the weekly schedule, the announcement, the advertising that you would like to do. And also some other things like focus groups that Jim introduced recently, and education@spaceshipinstitute.org. You know this email when you were registering as a student for the applications, for the administration, technical support. This is still the old address. We introduced the new address for Jim so that this part where Jim wants to bring the KFSI education in the future to improve the content, this one has the special email so you can talk with him and get this sorted out. But do not hesitate. We would like to see 100 languages teaching in parallel. There is, it was offered by Keshe Foundation, by Mr. Keshe years ago that the infrastructure is given to you. You just need to be brave, come forward and start. We are welcoming you aboard.
Excellent, Stanley, very good. Helps clarify for people that want to apply for that.
Thank you very much, Stanley. Any other question?
This question, do you have any plan to set up a factory in Sweden?
Not at the moment. If you are interested, send a request to the manufacturing link of the Keshe Foundation, or put the application in, we look at it. There is a very big, there is a need for understanding. To set up an operational factory, now we see it, like in Accra, from the time we start till we finish setting up the factory structure, that is literally no cost. The cost of setting up the factory comes when you start holding a stock, raw material, holding a stock to sell. Then it comes the financial backing of all the wages, all the running auxiliary systems and everything else, and keeping the technology in front. Setting up a manufacturing outlet to a point of being efficient is something like between $20 to $30 million. It's not cheap, because there is a lot of hidden bits in it. 20 million to invest in a small nation to what to be able to deliver, is better to put a few nations together and work in that way. Or do what is done in a couple of points. We put the organization according to the specialty they have into a research section. Or a specific, because the basic setting up of a factory is for the small countries, especially in Northern European countries, is formidable. But we have foreseen that we use for the basic raw materials, instead of setting up the whole structure, is to supply from base in Italy. Base in Italy is very handy for us to meet most of the Mediterranean. We are looking at the center distribution point of the raw material, what we call the base material station, somewhere in Germany, where we can reach most of the Scandinavian nations and other side. And these things, when you look at it, setting it up, running it, in a way producing gases in thousands of liters and in different, what you call, shapes of dry or liquid or paste or whatever, needs centralization. We have made a conscious decision that Italy will go that way. Italy will become the central depot for the small nations of what you call Balkan nations, that we produce the raw materials and then they become production lines. If they see something they need to be produced, we can finance. Or very small nations, usually better for us to see the talent inside and move into the direction of research and development. There is so many products to be developed. So many. Hundreds of thousands. It's not just because we touch everything. You think of it, it can be done financially affordable, we do it. If not, we support you to do it. These are all what is coming out. We are not short of products at this moment of time, meeting the capability and the capacity to produce the raw material for every aspect will become a bottleneck. And this is why we are planning 300-500 factories very rapidly. Total factory set up across the world in next 3 years, our plan is something between 600 to 1,000 units. And when we say this is the stations which can produce the raw material, you got to realize, to make a base, we will not be only us. Most probably we see a number of other people, organizations will come in to operate and run with us or along with us. And as I said to our team very recently, past few days, is anybody opens a line to win our competition, we have to reach out to work together. Then we can collaborate in a much easier way. It's not that we are this. I've seen these kind of collaborations work for years between the major corporations. At the beginning, they're at each other's throat, but then when they merge, they find out they have a bigger, what do you call it, comfortable work position. And we don't see the Keshe Foundation to be the only, but in a way, as we carry the name of the technology, we have to be trusted by it. And our main, all these things we are setting up, all this structure, is for one direction, space development. Usually you develop a space technology and the fallout from the space technology comes down the line into public as a byproduct. As I say, Teflons came from the space. With this technology, we have brought all the byproducts waiting to go for the space. And this takes a lot of understanding, a lot of work, and a lot of trust in us. And as I said, 2018 is the year we hope will take man to space. I see some results from some researchers. They are going very fast, they're seeing more. And I start moving scientists from positions that they can bring everything together to make sure it happens. Any other question?
Rick, good evening or good morning. You remember there was a person who had a question and we thought it would be very nice to bring it into this platform for Mr. Keshe to answer on it or explain on it. If that person is present, he can ask the question maybe himself. Do you remember what I'm referring to?
I remember the question. I can't remember who the person was, and I'll just remind them. It had to do with the vacuum chamber or empty spot behind the heart, and we were discussing, is it the soul of the physicality? And maybe that'll ring a bell for who that was if they're here. Was it Joseph Becker, perhaps? He's got his hand up. So I'll allow you to talk. I'll promote you to panelist there, Joseph, and to see if that was you. If that rings a bell, perhaps, because it wasn't one of our regular folks. Joseph, you want to go ahead? Was it you that said that was interested in that question?
Hello and a good day to you. I'm Joseph Becker from Austria. And I was teaching a friend about the soul and the connection to the brain and to the skin. And the friend of mine said to me, no, you are wrong, because the soul isn't in the head. The soul is in a vacuum chamber behind the heart. And I realized that there have to be two souls. And Mr. Keshe also spoke about the soul of the physicality and the soul of the totality, I want to name it. Maybe Mr. Keshe could speak about or want to take this topic?
Not really. We have clearly defined the position of the soul, and we leave those who like to interpret themselves one way. It's good.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. Any other question? We were in one of the teachings in past couple of days, those of you who haven't heard it or you're not there, we're trying to explain the position of the soul. And one of the things which we touched on is, if you go back to the structure of what we said, the way the incoming an egg and the sperm together leads in the dynamic division of the cells, and then they create a So many cells, when they come together create a center point of the central control that all of them can communicate and be with, which we call becomes the soul of the man. In so many ways, then this soul communicates with all the organs in the same way, in the same dimension. Um, I explain this in a very simple way, in a macro or micro, if you look at it, is the same as what we see with the school of fish, or we see within this flock of birds. This should give you a very good visualization of it. For example, when in the oceans we see mackerel or sardines or small fishes, so many millions of them come together and they rotate and evolve in the same direction, or they move in the same kind of circle. And we always think, how do they know suddenly all turn in one direction or the other? Or we see with flock of birds, especially, for example, if you've been in Rome and you see hundreds of thousands of birds, or if you're in Accra, 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, millions of bats take over from what is known 37 hospital. And in one area, they just take off all at the same time, millions of them. And they go away and they come back again in the afternoon, in the following morning. And we see this in Italy when the birds come back in the afternoons to nest in Rome. But they create a motion together. Or we see the same thing with a huge school of fish. How does it work? In the same way as what we call the sperm and eggs that make this combination of field forces, these animals create what we call a central soul in their dimension. And they don't need to communicate, because that's the center, the energy they create transfers the energy right across through them. So they all put the bits in of themselves, and the totality receives what it needs to be done, where the danger comes from, how they have to feel. And this is very much the same of the operation of the brain of the man, in respect to the soul of the man and the emotion of the man. If you want to see this, there's no better way to explain it. And then you see everything responds together. All the birds move together. All the animals take the same directional flow suddenly. It's just you press one place, the rest move. So in so many ways, in the liquid of the planet, in what we call the waters, we have that condition of the gaseous state, and then the animals this way create their own central, what we call soul dimension, which they all connect to and they all receive from. There is nobody there shouting all this way, now we all turn back. It's not an army. If the scientist or the what I call the man of knowledge understand this and they can utilize it, this becomes very handy, very, very effective in the space dimension of travel into space for man, when we have a huge number of what we call spaceships or souls in the depth of the space, where this thing becomes zero communication. We put from the strength of the soul, which is the emotion of trust in everything, and then it responds back to. The process of where the soul is, the soul can be created in anywhere when the collective strength of understanding of the feeling of the emotion come together. Happens in a division of cell in the womb of the mother, happens with the flock of birds, happens with a school of fish. Doesn't matter, few millions or few hundreds. This is the beauty of now that we are knowledgeable, we understand, to understand the totality of the work. And if we develop this knowledge, if we understand this knowledge, then it becomes very easy to control flight systems. It becomes very easy to control the whole structure within microseconds of deciding to go to left, to right, or the whole flock decides suddenly to turn backwards. Collective numbers of what are called souls irrespective of being the heart of the man, the brain of the man, a school of fish, flock of birds, bunch of spaceships who understand the process of interaction, creates a zero time, what I call response. It creates a zero time through the dimension of the soul of the man. Those of you who work in space technology and you're looking for zero time communication, you should have learned a lot from these past few sentences. Don't create a fiberglass line of communication. Create a central dimension, central plasma communication. Then you can reach the whole universe. Those of you who understand and been looking for zero time communication, you should have received your answers today. It goes into a three-dimensional dynamic systems, which the thought of a man in every dimension can go in and go out. It's a speaker of the soul of the creation. And in so many ways, if you understand this becomes part of the process of running your reactors for a space development. The understanding of the cavity of her back of the heart, a cavity in the foot of the man. Now we found a new cavity in the left arm on the top of the shoulder. The reason is you have to understand the totality of physicality comes into the heart of the man. The emotion of the man collectively comes there and it distributes. The brain of the man has got no blood, so it cannot participate in this direction. But if you look in the time when the man educates enough himself, you will see field flow within the structure of the brain of the man, which leads to the creation of the soul of the man and maintaining everlasting energy supply to it, till it takes its own dimension. In the teaching of past couple of days, I explained this in a very soft way that one might understand. Many of us, I think it was Rick who said, I dream about my grandmother, my grandfather, and I see them and the rest. And I explained how it happens. Go back into the teaching, into the private teaching, public teaching the past couple of days. Then we understand, even within the soul of the man, you still carry the soul of the matter state of the man, or what we call the physicality, because it's of a different strength than the soul of the man, which is the possessor of the totality. As I explained in the teaching, when we see the physicality of a father or a mother or a grandmother who passed away, or they are in another part of the world, they're not with us, we don't see the physical body of the man. We see the soul of the physicality within the realm of the soul of the man, which means the soul of physicality sits within the structure of the physical soul, what we call the soul of the entity. And then we recognize from the matter state of the soul of the physicality, the matter state of the man, and we recognize this is a mom or dad or the uncle or somebody else we don't know, but somehow we have a connection with. Then this explains a lot in another dimension, that when we manage to go within the structure of the soul, then the soul of physicality creates a new dimension of existence, what we call zero-time communication. This is important for those of us who are looking into the space development. Be very much working on a simple way than making things complicated to confirm existence. Understand the new system, the new knowledge. Understand the way we decide to expand our knowledge. We have to be able to communicate, not only, as I said last time, to bring the soul of the man beyond the boundary of the physicality, but to be able to work within the dimension of the physical matter of the soul of the man, within the structure of the soul. Then you don't need to carry this heavy body of the man. Wherever you go, you bring that out, and that physical structure of the soul, then in the new environment will manifest itself. Very much still H2O. If you bring it in a frozen area, it will be ice. If you bring it in a warm area, it will become steam. If you give it the right condition, it becomes a drop of rain. But in essence, still H2O. Then, while you are within the structure of the soul, on a physical matter state of the soul, what we call the soul of physicality, then you can bring yourself out to manifest yourself in a new environment which needs 20 legs or 15 arms or 20 eyes, because that's what confirms existence. Not every being in the universe has a lung and intestine. There's no need for intestine when there are no animals and no trees to eat. If we go into the next steps of the understanding of the structure of the soul of the man, in becoming in charge and in control of it, and understanding how not only we can allow the soul of the man to encompass the physicality, but we can leave the physicality behind, but work through the soul of physicality within the soul of the man, then we are in touch with everybody else without the physical dimension. And then it becomes a zero communication time. It becomes exactly like what you see as a school of fish suddenly changes direction, or a flock of birds suddenly move back and turn and do everything else. Because in what it turns, it creates a new dimension. If the school decides to go forward, it's the image of the uncle. If the school of the fish decides to go backwards, it'll be the image of the auntie, if you can explain it that way. But in fact, it's instantaneous in all dimensions. And then, as I said in the teaching, if you understand this, then you can see if the desire and the line of communication and strength of understanding is equal to the soul of the person who is in balance or in communication with you, and is what is your path of belief, my wish is my command, you can make line of communication even to see the Prophet of God. You call it Christ, Moses, or anybody else. Then you'll be surprised what you see. If it's what you see in the blue eye, black hair or blonde hair, or is it what you actually a bald guy, he had no hair. And then you have to trust in yourself. What I've seen is what it is. Or I even start questioning the conduct of my own soul in the dimension of physicality. Zero time communication comes from collective mass, 3 dimension, in more or less a spherical position of the line of the fields, which can be understood at the strength of the soul of the man in the dimension of physicality, and no other way. Then you see, you don't need to imagine, you hear, and you can visualize exactly as you, in your dream, you see your mother, your grandmother, or your brother being alive or passed away, or hundreds of generations backwards. If you can go within the depth of the RNA, which is the recording, not DNA, which is the physicality, then we understand a new understanding, and that is through the RNA we can travel the depth of the evolution of the man in all dimensions, where DNA limits into the dimension of physicality of the soul. Then you understand in a very simple way, you can dig into the archives of the dynamic RNA soul of the man, and then you can call upon anyone. But it needs a lot of training, a lot of understanding. is, as was said earlier on, how do we send our children to be educated with the new technology? Now we all become little kids, going back to nursery to understand the truth about our own physicality and the creation and the condition of creation. Then in so many ways goes to some of the teachings. If you go back, I asked a single question: how do the babies communicate even in the womb of their mother with each other? Now you understand. They're exactly even in different liquids, but part of the same soup of the same, what we call the school of fish, because they're no different. Collectively, in zero time, they understand, they feel, and because they have no, in a way, connection to physicality the way we have outside, communicate, understand, and there is one language, and that's the language of the soul. They don't understand Arabic or English or anything else. The new design of the space reactors, for those of you who are working in that direction, for system of understanding and controlling, comes from this principle, this fundamental way, where you have to create a dynamic flow within the structure of the plasma, which part of it becomes the soul of the physicality of the man, which can understand and interpret languages. Then your decision of control becomes instantaneous. Zero time communication, and you don't need any computers. And any other question?
We did have a question that Flint has forwarded from Krasmir. He says that's related to what you're just talking about, I believe. Mr. Keshe, is there a difference between the soul of a dead person and the soul of a person who has decided to travel the universe only with his soul and has freed himself from the physicality? Can both of them manifest again in the physicality?
Yes, but it depends in which dimension. You can even do it on Earth.
You mean come back into the body you left, or to come back into another
either way, it
life
depends on
form?
position. It just depends on the position and the form. Many people have done this before. You can even be so quick to understand that in India you need to look Indian, and in, what do you call it, in let's say Scandinavia, you got to be blonde and blue eyes and whatever. There is no difference. This is the only limitation is us who does not understand or have not understood up to now. As I said, if you manifest yourself in planet Zeus, which has got 20 legs and 14 arms, in the condition of the atmospheric condition, because now you work with the field of the plasma of the environment. That's why some of us turn blonde blue eyes and some of us black hair and black eyes, is the condition of the environment. So you can do the same here. We are so attached with the physical body that we do not want to understand that we are detached from it. We can be detached from it and create the same dimension as we need at any position. Doesn't need to be in deep space. And does not need to be human race. If you see a flock of birds and you can tune into the strength of their soul, you feel how they feel when they get chased over a fish, how they get chased by a whale or whatever. Then you understand the emotion, then you can do something about it to change it, or satisfy the whale that the fish can stay. But the question comes in another point: what are we going to do with the whole people having no predators? Souls find a balance. because they don't want to see one of them to be demised. It's a school of what I call queuing. We wait. If you produce another 100 extra fish, there won't be feed for them that they can be fed. So we don't produce any. And the birds do it perfectly by season, by availability of the food and everything else. How do they allow so many of them not to produce that year because there is a shortage, but they allow the others to? What decides that? Man needs a lot to learn about his soul because he's too much entangled in physicality.
Well, that's a good question to come up right now regarding, it's just been Valentine's Day. And one of the questions from Alper is, any words for the Valentines? Does love need a confirmation? Was one of his questions. And if yes, is it a celebration or a physical confirmation? And then from that, does soul need a confirmation of any kind?
Shall I leave that to you, Rick? You should be master for this by now.
Well, not exactly. Well, in a way, perhaps, but it's on Valentine's Day. It's normally a time for couples, right? That's what happens on Valentine's Day. People get together, and as it was mentioned earlier today, even in the ancient teachings, it was a time to revere the woman, to the wife and the woman, to make it a special day for them, and so on. And so that's always a part of it, is this couple thing. But for me, I don't have a relationship with someone else in that manner. So it's a singles day for me, as it was at Christmas and so on. So how do I approach that? It's still for me a day of love, and that feeling of love and that expression and so on. It's, I'm totally with that. But at the same time, there's a bit of a pang because I don't have that relationship thing. And I wonder, okay, if I'm out in space, floating around in space or whatever I'm doing out in space, am I going to miss that that need for the other, to have someone other to relate to? Do we need confirmation of this? Does love need a confirmation? That's a big question. Does soul need a confirmation? Do we have to feel that love from what we call the other, someone else, or can we just self-generate it and feel it within ourselves? And that's also ties in with the idea that we can love the soul of our physicality. Essentially, it's we can, in a way, adore our own biological physicality, soul, through our soul, and that way it becomes bound to each other. And I mean, it's, at the same time, we're trying to separate in a way to understand one from the other. What are the actions of the soul, the physicality, and what is the behavior of the soul, and so on. So it gets to be a good time to run that sort of exercise. What is it that I need to confirm from my environment to feel that love? And can I generate it myself? Can I be a self-sufficient energy generator? Is what it amounts to. And this is what I think is an independent energy generator, actually, is the term. And I think humans are becoming independent energy generators. And perhaps we won't need to have that partner in order to confirm our existence in that way at some point. but maybe that's what we really do need, is to confirm through that partner. Maybe you can help me a bit with that, Mr. Keshe. I think I rambled.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a very, very simple question. How many of us on this planet today are aware of Valentine? Very few. I tell you, Indians have no clue about it. 100% in Africa, South America. In China, most probably 95% of people don't even know what it is. We have created this time, this date, or whatever, for us to confirm to us that we are loved. That's all it is. Why do we choose a Valentine? In a way, we want to have somebody to confirm that we are loved, but we tell them we love them, that by confirming to them we love them, they confirm they love us. But it doesn't matter what games we play with it. But we have to understand, it only applies to the Western world. Did somebody in your wake up this one says, oh, it's the day I have to do something with it, it's a Valentine. And then it comes, what does it give? What does it make us to be? That we need someone to love, that through us confirming to them we love them, they confirm our existence. There's different ways of looking at it, but at the end of it is giving from the emotion, and not by physicality, but now we buy a flower, we buy a box of chocolate, we buy anything that the commercial world has told us to do to fit into the image of being loved. I remember a woman in the UK who used to tell me, I buy myself a flower for Valentine because I love myself. I mean, I don't need somebody else to love me, then I have to pay with the suffering of it for the rest of my life. In a way, if you look at it, love, as we say, it's giving, is that we would like to have a confirmation that there is somebody giving, accepting what we are giving, and that our effort is not wasted. It's a confirmation of us for the work we've done. Any other question? Today's questions are very different than last week, huh?
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Let me see. There was Jalal. You had your hand up. Do you want to say something there?
Thank you, Rick. Good day, Mr. Keshe.
Hello, Jalal.
Mr. Keshe, this brings us to the point. The ray, thank you, double. She said, oh, welcome to me. I know.
Just wait 1 second, please. Every time you come, he gets excited.
I have influence in it.
Okay, can you tell us? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Keshe. The zero-time communication. Once you said what happened in the space, it's you see it direct because it is in plasma state. Why the ray from the sun, when it comes to the earth, take 6 or 7 minutes to reach? What's the difference here?
That is a matter state of the conversion, not the actual, the totality of it. A ray, if you go back into the book, the structure of the light, I'll explain this in a very simple way. what does reduce from the space of time in strength from sun to the earth? In the measure of time we call it 8 minutes something. But in fact, the higher strength rays of the sun, the second they reach the surface, they have passed through the galaxies and the universes, according to the strength they have. The brightness on the surface of the sun, which we see, and we call it the light of the sun, which by its interacting with the earth atmosphere we see it, we will not know that the sun existed. We see the star in the interaction of its light, which is at the strength of the position of our observation in the liquid of the eye of the man. We recognize the star, otherwise we will not see it. But the interaction of the fields of the central what you call gravitational magnetic field with the matter state of the sun itself creates a surface light. That light on the surface in so many ways takes 8 minutes because it's come to the matter state to get to us. No scientist has measured the rest of the light energies which goes through from the sun. Is instantaneous. The strength of the soul of the sun passes through this planet the minute it has created in the center of the sun. It's the same, the soul of physicality or the soul of the existence, or what we call the soul of the man. It's what the scientists call neutrinos. They try to create a condition, a pond or whatever, water, kilometers under the ground, that when it slows down enough by the mountain, stones or whatever, when it hits here, we can detect it as a photon. But if you look at it, this, what I call the stupidity of the world of science is, some of these neutrinos slow down in the liquid of the eye of the man. You don't need to go all the way to the bottom of the earth and put all these electronics in. Because we do not have a filter to reduce all the fields which come from the sun, that it becomes observable to us. So those are which are in matter state, which takes 8.5, because we can measure it at the matter strength. Those are who are of the higher strength, we don't even have the tools. If you look at the fields from the sun in a different dimensional strength, it's not even the color and the shape and the size you see. We only see and measure what has reached the matter state physical point of observation as ours, not as the others. What I see as a sun, a man from planet Zeus doesn't see at the sun. It could be kilometers out or thousands of kilometers inwards. He sees at the strength of his point of observation strength. So you measure a matter, you get a matter. It's very much, this is one of the, I was discussing this with one of the top scientists in space technology. These scientists have achieved sublight speed of travel. Even though our American friends and other things are very advanced in space, there are scientists here that have achieved sublight flight. And we were discussing this because I've seen the machine, they showed me the flight system. And the discussion was that we cannot go over the speed of light. We have a problem. Can you solve it for us? I explained to them, when I look at the aircraft, when I saw the aircraft, it's beautifully done. They spend a lot of time. They actually travel sublight. Speed of sound is beyond. It goes within the first second the flight takes place. And I explained to them in a simple way. The craft has been built in a special shape that it can, but I explained to them the problem you have that you don't see, you are using matter state. If you develop the technology which we do in Keshe Foundation, which we create the structure of the matter through the strength of the plasma, then you can pass the speed of light. You create the creation of the barrier is the physicality of the entity. It's like a bulletproof glass. You're trying to get a bullet through it. We have not understood this, and these world scientists have reached the speed of light. They are sublight. They know they can travel beyond them. When they appear, they create mayhem in places they do. But it's fun because I've seen the structure and the whatever. And now they understood, the knowledge has to be restudied. In a way, as I said, the problem we have is what Einstein has created a problem, that the speed of light is the ultimate speed. Yes, it is, but only in a matter state. We can produce any aircraft and fly up to the limit of the speed of light, more or less. But again, depends what material we use, because in different strength materials have different speed of light. Where with the plasma you become a chameleon, you fit into everything. Then you can go with multiple strength of the, what we call the speed of light in the matter state on this planet. Because the speed of light in the matter state in planet Zeus is totally different, could be millions of times faster than the speed of light here. So when we look at the sun, we say it takes 8 minutes to get here. We're talking about what in the world of plasma physicists and the light and physics, they say light has two characteristics and we don't understand. Sometimes it behaves as a photon, sometimes it behaves as a particle. But what they don't understand is which strength light is traveling at. Now we can answer these questions, because now we understand that speed of light is only to us on a matter level, the maximum speed or the freedom of the speed plasma can fly in matter state or travel in matter state. Then we call it the speed of light. It's not necessarily above or below it. Any other question?
Well, we had a question earlier from Sylvain in the live stream. Mr. Keshe, can you talk about floating souls? In the 209th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, you said, do we change our soul in the liquid to become a floating soul? Or do we change our soul to be protected by the physicality? And to what exchange we allow the physicality to interact with its environment, that it exists within the liquid state of the water or liquid anywhere in the universe? Isn't it in a different way like people with cystic fibrosis who have a problem with adapting to the breathing of the air, their souls having failed to fully adapt their physicality to the new environment? Can you explain more? Thanks.
The soul of the life in liquid takes into consideration, one, the field strength of the liquid, and then the field strength of the containment of the liquid. A liquid always is contained, same as a gas. But when you submerge or you are animal of that dimension, you have three forces field interacting in a matter state or in a field plasma state of the matter. What does this mean? This is the soul of you as a creature we have, okay, as a man walking in the air. Our containment is the plasmatic pressure of the atmosphere, more or less freedom of the space. In the liquid state, now you have the gravitational magnetic field of the liquid. And then the liquid itself is contained within the structure of another gravitational magnetic field. It's very much when you put a fish in a glass of water, or in, what do you call it, a bottle, and then if you see it, the fish has a soul which is in there. Then you have the condition of the liquid, and then you have the condition of the cup or the glass. So it has to adjust to accept all two. Plus the glass now is conditioned in the condition of the gravitational magnetic field of the planet. With a fish, we always have control by the dimension of the central gravity in respect to the liquid. Environmental gravitational magnetic field strength. Now then we adjust our soul to fit that. A fish partially accepts condition of the physicality as part of the limitation to its existence in accepting transfer of the information from the soul to its physicality. Very much, as I said, with dinosaurs and coming down. If you look, we still carry some of the animals from the dinosaur time in the seas. They're still there. But none exist on the planet in the air condition. Because in the surface, in the condition of the liquid, there is a containment which has not hardly changed. Very, very little. That's why we see huge animals in the oceans, which we cannot sustain in the water, and they go back to the time. Go into crocodiles and the rest of it. Because it's a condition confinement, and then confinement of the liquid is a double layer system, where with the physicality we accept one layer. This is why most of us cannot live in 2 dimensions, to be a sea and the air. Because we need to understand the adjustment between the second container, which is the gravitational magnetic field of the earth itself and the liquid. If we can adapt, we can survive. And in time we will adapt, because now we're learning a new way. In the teachings, part of the teachings in part of the books, and go back in time, I explain double layering of the field. You can allow part of your soul to become internal to another. Now you can live in 2 dimensions of the field of the universe. It allows you to live on the gaseous, and it allows you to live in a liquid state. And then, if you are understanding how to live with the dimension of the fields of the soul, it allows you to live in a physical dimension, in the strength of the soul of the man too. So for us as a human being to be able to survive in the liquid oceans of the universe, we have to learn, 1, to protect our physical dimension, and then 1, to create a dimension of the soul strength of the environment within the containment. Then we decide if we want to live in one or the other. We can live in both air and water. But the same happens to the fish. When the fish comes out, has a problem. The reason when we are born, we go through the birth tunnel, is this conversion. It's a conversion of the soul of the man into a new strength dimension and nothing else. Because in the womb of the mother, the containment is the physicality of the body of the mother. But the liquid is the same, and our soul is floating in it. And how we communicate with the soul of the mother. In respect to our soul, we understand the emotion, we understand the voice of the mother, we understand the emotion of the feel of the mother. This is what I explained in one of the teachings in the past few days, that why do we have a voice box in our neck? And how it's positioned and how we talk through the voice. The reason I explained, and some of you might understand the easier way, is, as I said, when you have the sun and then when you have the earth. At the point of interaction is where we see the creation of the light and noise of the entry and friction. If you go further towards the sun, we still hear a noise. If you come further to the earth, we still hear a noise. But at one point is where the two fields interact and lead to the creation of the light. The voice box of the man is in the same position, is between the point of the soul of the physicality and the soul of the man. And man has created a system, we call it a voice box, which creates different vibrations and disruption in this position. We have managed to control it through the emotion of the fields of the brain of the man, and we use the interaction of this, what I call the fields of the soul of the man and the fields of the physicality of the man, the soul of physicality, and we make a noise, and we call it the voice box. As I said in the teaching, wherever this voice box sits, and if you look at it, dictates and shows us the condition of the emotion of the physicality and the soul of the man. You know what you're dealing with. So, as I said, it's the first time we understand why we have a voice box in this position. With all the animals, it's the same. And the position of the soul and the physicality, the interaction of them, dictates the level of intelligence, the level of conversion. But then it goes by the speed of the flow of the emotion of the matter in the strength of the physicality, the strength of the soul of the man, or physicality of the man in respect to the soul of the man. Now we understand, as I said before, for the first time, why we even have a voice box and how it's come about to be. It's where the two souls, physicality and the matter of the soul, interact. And we have become very clever. We put different filters in it. We call it, we interrupt it, makes different noises. We are the animals which can talk. We have perfected the art of the conversion and interaction, partially by souls and partially by physicality of the tissue muscles that we have created, which can interact with these fields. Any other question?
Well, there's sorry,
Rick.
Klaus, do you want
I have a question that's leading on from Jalal's question about the sun. The hoops on the surface of the sun, that is field interaction that's creating a matter state that we can see with our eyes, Cohan-based eyes. Are those hoops a residue of the rays leaving the sun?
It's from the interaction of different fields. You got to realize the surface of the sun is, it has two or three dimensional field flow. One is coming from gravitational magnetic field of itself, and one is from the conversion of the strength of the fields which have reduced enough that they have become matter state at the strength of the field of the gravitational magnetic field of the sun. And then when they come to that, now they interact back with the fields, other fields which are coming through, and then this interaction of the matter state conversion with the strength of the field which are coming, which again likes the friction, as I said, with the voice of the man, between soul of the man, physicality, soul of the man, to the creation of the light of the surface. But some of these because of its dynamism and rotation, create these features. The black dot, but the blackness of the surface of the sun. Read the papers, it's in the books. I've explained this very clearly. How we get the black spots on the surface of the sun. We get a black surface when the charges goes and the sun is trying to go through is what I call reverse cycle. As it, what do you call it, goes through 360 degrees like its heartbeat. Every 23 years does a full cycle, every 1.5 years is half cycle of it. Change of magnetic fields. The matter plasma state is going to get balanced, and then the field matter strength of the plasma of the center comes out, and they create the charges. And then when it gets to a saturation point at about 11.5 years, it creates a reverse rotation. This is why, as I said, in half-sphere reactors, we create a half-sphere to stop this rotation. There is the cycle of the reversal of the polarity. With the circular reactors, we always had this problem, and we had to devise a new system. And it took millions of years to understand this in some races to be able to do it, because there were so many losses. And because we always looked at all the universes and all the galaxies, everything was circular. But cutting it in half, taking out on the stability of the rotation, saturation of the, very much like a heartbeat, as we said last week, of the plasma, led to the creation of present half-shape, what you call the spaceships. And like as I said, in Knowledge of Universe, if you look, you still see some spherical flights. This shows primitive people who have just managed to fly. Then you see the spaceship, and which is half circle flat, in a way, as you see semi-flat, which creates the stability and stops the rotation of the field. And the black spots is the same. When the fields come in and the balance, you don't create any lights. And this shows the time of balance of the fields, which creates no interaction, no lights, and you see the dark spots on the sun. This has been explained in the books.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. What you just said then about full spherical ships and half spherical ships. Now, did I understand it correctly that a full spherical ship is primitive? Is that what you said, or is it a half spherical ship is primitive?
I call it primitive. Usually,
which way round is it?
The spherical.
Okay. In that case, why, when the soul of the man activates the spaceship, why can you feel a spherical, why can you feel the shell of the ship? Why is it spherical? Why is it not half spherical?
Because we are part of the same structure. Yes, because it's origin. It's the original. It's very much like, you know, we learn about the wheel and we put a box on it, we call it a car, and now we have different, more complicated, sophisticated aerodynamic. The new half sphere is the development of understanding plasmatic aerodynamic, not to allowing it to flip over. But if you look at it, we create this condition of half a sphere through operation of full spheres. The 4 reactors you have are in a full shape sphere. And the primitive, as we said, is the origin, the way it is. But now you can position reactors in a certain place that you can bend the fields inwards, and you make it to half. And in that position, the field forces cannot flip back. You take the heartbeat out of the system.
Okay, thank you. So would you could use to reflect it, to cut it in half, could you use like maybe on a physical spaceship, nano-coated mass, like a sheet, nano-coated, to cut it in half? Would that absorb it, or would?
You cannot cut it in half. you can suppress it to the shape you want. If you look, the 3 reactor bases are suppression of the fields to go further down. If you move these reactors all the way equal position from the top, from the center, and you can position them next to each other, you get back the spherical shape. The half a sphere has a lot of advantages. First of all, it allows you to travel much faster. The magnetic field friction is much lower. It allows the containment in the physical dimension of the plasma. It stops the reversal position of the heartbeat of the plasma because you siphon it, you literally return it back to itself. And it has an advantage that allows a spectrum of the souls to be traveling in it. When you have a spirit shape, you usually have monomagnetic fields. When you have this half a spherical shape, it's very much like you've seen, we have a 5-degree angle on the sun, it gives us so many different variation. These 3 base reactors coming up, which enforces this shape, allows transportation of multi-races. And those of men who grow into becoming part of the universal community and can get a chance to enter these environments, they see different creatures of different dimensions. Because that change of shape in the position allows multi-dimensional fields.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome. When a man becomes wise and chooses the path of peace, and then when the universal communities open up the door of the knowledge to man to rapidly grow into it, and you enter these spaceships, you see the marvels of God, the creatures within them are beyond imagination. Their beauty, the way they exist, and they all work in harmony as one. Because they work through the soul, there is no languages.
Mr. Keshe, that ties into a previous question by Jan, who talks about a problem that many humans have, which is what is the easiest way to help someone out of depression, someone who's stuck in a negative inner dialogue and who doesn't see the beauty, love, and other good things waiting for them, such as you were just explaining, for example.
2 ways or 1 way. It's very much attention deficiency. I need attention. That's all. I need to be confirmed that I exist. And when they do it to themselves, they call it depression. I have no reason to confirm to myself that I exist, because then I need somebody else to confirm my existence. But when I cannot confirm to myself I exist, what's the use of existing? And then you call it all sorts of depressions. Actually, it's not a depression, it's lack of confirmation of existence by oneself of his own soul. It's very, very easy to change, but again depends on what they're trying to get attention. There's a disease called lupus, L-U-P-U-S. Oh, you give me one of these, I run. I would like to experiment and try to help anyone, but When it comes people with are diagnosed by lupus, you see it, just run as fast as you can in the opposite direction. Because these people have perfected the art of getting attention, draining other people's attention, and the minute you move it, they move the position and it becomes another. There are chameleons of attention seeking, they call it lupus. They have a pattern and they look for victims, because through their victims they confirm their existence. Otherwise there is no way you can say the guy's got the lupus. Once they find someone who can give them that attention, then he becomes the problem, or she becomes the problem. We see lupus majority with women. I've done some research on this and I gave up at the end of it because I could see how they operate. And then they give it all sorts of names. I call it kingship. I changed the seat to always to be. You know, it's very much like the world presidents now. You see, they become a world president, they give it to somebody else and they come back again as a different thing, and then they become the head of the European Commission, and then they become something else to escape and duck and dive from everything else. These are locals. We've seen it with the best example of is Mr. Tony Blair, ex-Prime Minister of England. They're giving him any title that they can to keep him out of prisons in Den Haag for the crimes done in Iraq. False war. And he creates any condition. And the strange thing is the guy who created all the wars in peace now becomes the ambassador of peace for the Middle East. These diseases, we have to redefine it. There is no disease. It's just I'm looking a victim to feel bad enough about me that through it I can confirm I'm an abuser. So you call it whatever you like. Depression. We can help people with depression in a way of by increasing the level of the soul, and then they find a position between the physicality and the soul, and they walk away from it. But you find out because they got so much attention when they were sick, they won't let it go. They find another way to have the depression again, even though they're happy when you're not there. Have you ever walked into a relationship that a person laughs and jokes with others, and when he turns up to you, he is always angry with you? And have you ever stood still? How come she's laughing with her mother and the sister, but when it comes to me, it's always something wrong with me and attack me? Because you're the one who gives that attention. You are the point of depression.
What about, excuse me, what about the idea, Mr. Keshe, as Jan elucidates, should we just leave them alone, although some of them are our beloved ones?
In so many ways, when you leave them alone, they still become the menace to their own physicality. And they still carry on with the depression. Pretended depression. There are a lot of ways you can help, or in a way to, they have to understand what they are doing to themselves. You cannot do it with medication. The medication and others have not understood the function of the soul of the man in these things, which is abused by the emotion, and then you give it any kind of diseases you like. You can strengthen the emotion, or what you call weaken the strength of the emotion, by increasing the level of the fields which is radiated from the soul of the man. And you see they walk away. But they find another way to make a new filter to reach the new position. I was talking about this with my son yesterday. We were walking. He said something about this depression. I said it doesn't exist. It's you who want to know what you can name. You can name it that you can abuse my time. That's all it is. Depression.
May I?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. This
Yes,
is
we can hear
Estela.
you.
Estela from Argentina,
Yes.
but I live in the United States.
Yeah.
I kind of experiment. I've been experiencing this since I was a kid, and that's how I start working with the energy. So doing yoga, acupuncture, sports. I kind of explore different things, and what I learned is exactly what you said is correct. But with adding to what we've been learning in the last couple of weeks, it's identified that disconnection of the soul with the body. And even I remember when I was 12, I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't know who was that person. And the only way how I felt more connected was to say, okay, I'm going to express in this body who I am. And I was young. I felt so disconnected that I could, even when I walk, I kind of hit my body with the furniture because I didn't have the, the control. I'm very tall and I grew up a lot in that time. I was growing from young girl to adolescent, and so I went through all these hormonal changes, emotional changes, and so I was lucky. My family, I had access to natural therapies, and what I find out that meditation, frequency, music helped me to connect my emotion, slow down the emotional with my muscles in my body, and running and then meditating and relaxing helped me a lot to release the pressure of my mind with emotions. And what really free myself is music. Music is like the medicine with no words and no thinking. It just connecting to the music helps you to feel happy and feel alive. So we have the chemistry of depression where your body already lack from zinc, B6, all these crucial uh, to to produce serotonin and dopamine. But I find out that by with music, with certain frequencies, also produce in the body all that, and my brain gets better without even no medicine. Because when they gave me medicine, I felt terrible. I felt worse, disconnected. So
Is it possible? Can I ask a question? Is it possible that you have found field strength?
oh yeah, yeah, because I've been thinking about this in the last couple of days. I'm here doing some medical treatment, and I discovered, I'm 54. I discovered at 52 I'm dyslexic. But the dyslexia I have is very interesting because my eyes don't coordinate, so affects my. I have auditorial and visual dyslexia, which means I see, but I lost the information. Like there is a gap, a distortion of the visual shape or information coming into my brain. It gets like zip, and I'm like, okay, I lost that information. The same with the audio. Someone talks to me, and usually the last few words of the sentence, again, zip. It's like a electrical circuit goes away, and I cannot understand, or I lost the memory recognition of the sound and the information of the shape. Like I don't recognize what is it, what they're talking about. Or like the simple word light. I'm a lighting designer, and I'd see light every day. Well, the last two letters, TH, I don't know if to put it the H first or the T. So I'm like a person with eyes and hands, but I don't see or I don't touch. It's almost like being in a dark room with light, and I cannot see the light. And I've been thinking about this. It's almost like the mirror. The mirror reflects the light of the mirror, the back side of the mirror. And this is almost connected to the plasma you're talking about. The real flow of the plasma is spherical, and we have a distorted plasma flow of different geometrical form. It creates distortion and the manifestation of things and shapes. And I don't take it like I'm gonna be like this. I take it like I'm gonna fix it, because even last night when I went to work, I sleep. I've been working for a week, sleeping 3 hours, and I went to bed and I couldn't relax. And I'm thinking, I'm like those babies. They're trying to, learn to move the arm or walk, and you keep trying to touch that toy because you don't have control of the hand, and you keep doing and you keep doing. And I'm 54, and I'm not gonna give up. And this is about what you said. It's about the embracing of the soul and this physicality in the right way. It's not in the distorted way. I'm not gonna allow that, because I want to be a human. I want to be a human. I can see and dance and sing with my voice, because my voice is not my voice. Or draw. Those are my goals. I want to draw, and I'm an architect, and I cannot draw with my hands. So it's been hard for me to work for 20. It's my little secret. I never told anybody. I kind of found ways to survive, but I don't want to go in victim. But I'm facing it. It's painful for me, but it's okay. At least I'm trying to change it. So I'm working on that. And I think
Estella,
yeah.
this is Klaus. Hello, Estella.
Yeah.
I invite you. We can go into this string in the next resonance session.
Excuse me, can I stop you there, please?
Yes.
If such a discussion, please do it outside. Because resonance does not exist within the soul of the man. What is important for us to understand is we try to solve our problems in so many ways, in a way which we see a solution for it, and in a way which sometimes does not need much help, but needs a lot of understanding of ourselves and our position. Many of us move into these emotional conditions and others through the cycle of life we live, and the energies and the souls we have received in the interaction. In so many ways, those of us who look for an answer outside, we have to look answer inside, how this position has been developed. And with understanding it, we can move out of it. Sometimes it's impossible because we don't see the way, but sometimes in elevating our own soul, we can do. And it's part of the teachings which we're trying to understand more and teach more, is how to elevate our own soul through our physicality, that in return our soul moves the dimension which is a point of what I call pain for us. Don't forget that the physical part of our entity led to creation of our soul, that the creation of the soul led to creation of our physical dimension as we are. We have to understand to use this process, not by somebody coming and telling us, I teach you resonance, I teach you something else, which we are back in the same position as before. Finding the level of the understanding, the level of the, what I call maybe the right way to put it or wrong way, contribution towards our physical dimension, towards our soul, and their understanding, in the return the soul looks after the physicality, is the only way of survival in the universe. No other way. There is no other way, because there's no pharmaceutical and there's no man with a resonance machine to come and teach you what to do. You got to learn to love your soul, and in loving it, in nourishing it, you learn, you nourish your physicality through the dimension of the soul. Anything else sits on the dimension of abuse, because now you give it to somebody else to abuse you, because then when it's not there, you find another way to abuse yourself. We are teaching, we are approaching, we are learning how to survive in a space, even though we explain it in matter state. As I said at the very, very beginning of today's workshop, in the normal condition, people develop a space technology, and then whatever comes out of it becomes a byproduct of it. In this cycle, we are going so much to change, to bring man, that the byproducts are released before the full man understanding of how to use the spaceship, even though the knowledge is there. In space, there are no systems, unless understanding the process of the work of one's soul and the dimension of physicality of itself. Yesterday, or the day before, there was something about love, thy love his neighbor, as is in the commandments. The closest neighbor to you is your soul. And it wasn't written for your neighbor next door, blonde eye, blue hair, or whatever. The closest neighbor to your soul is the soul of your physicality. And you have to love it. And you have to give from it for it to elevate. It's the only way. That's what we said all the time. All the process of teaching is what we call love. It means giving. Thy love his neighbor. What is the nearest neighbor to you as a man? You're in the desert. 200, 100, 1 million kilometers away in another galaxy, or your soul. We have misinterpreted all the writings which came because it's suited. When you love your neighbor, which is your soul, you give to it. What do you do when you're in love with somebody? As I've said many times, a lover in the language of the soul is a giver, you give from it. Why don't you learn to give from your soul? From your physical soul, which you can add to it because we consume things through our physicality, to increase the level of your soul. And then through it, the soul will increase the level of the soul of physicality in the physical dimension. And then the filter of the depression is still there, but now doesn't fit in, moves out. It's not in that scale anymore. Learn how to survive. Learn how to be the last man standing, and there are no resonance machines anywhere in the universe. I haven't seen one. You have to learn, and this is the only way. I teach you to survive the space, not to sell system on land for somebody to suit. Even though the whole thing on the side is part of gathering people to understand more and more when they use the systems. To elevate the soul of the man from the pain makes the man wise to see more. Try to learn, try to understand. You are, as Allah, the last one standing in Argentina, the whole of the nation is gone, you're in the space. What are you going to do? You have the dimension of physicality to take, or you have the dimension of the soul to take from the universal energy to elevate the physicality from its pain. That's all you need.
I quit smoking 3 weeks ago. And what you're talking about, I associated with fear. and anxiety gives me the need to go to something that would be like an addictive personality, so I go and smoke cigarettes, right? But what I realized was that fear of breathing, relax, and like let him breathe in the air to
You
oxygenate
see,
my body.
can I say something?
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, but I analyze the words spoken, which is the easiest way. You have used, repeated 2, 3, 4 times the fear. What is the fear? Why do we use this word? You can put it in a way, this is my strength to this limit. If there's a fear when you can lose, there should be no fear when you can gain and you know your limitation. This fear is created in different ways in us to control us, and we become master of it ourselves to control ourselves for our own pains. Why do you call it a fear? This is the level I am. Not afraid of losing.
I was going to that. That's what I'm working on. The fear of being, the fear of not connecting to who I am.
Is it a fear of success?
Yes.
Is it fear of recognition?
Yes.
So why do you have a fear? You already recognize it with your own dimension of physicality. What are you afraid of?
I don't know. It's like subconscious, like a program. It's like I don't understand where this come from, because I mean, you know, if I use the rational.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You are the. We go back to the origin of life. You are the first Eve, and there was one Adam, and he's gone away. Do you go through depression till he comes back? Or life is worth existing till he comes back? And whatever I have is there for me to survive and enjoy. If you were the first woman on this planet, would the word of fear exist? I don't think so. Fear has put in us over time, and we have nourishing it, and it's become a way of us controlling ourselves. One of the biggest fears for man is to do something wrong that it might end him up here or there. As I said very recently, I have no fear, and most of the people who follow the foundation be of that school of thought. When you're afraid is the time when they control you. Even you control your own soul, how much you give to it, that it stops you elevation of yourself. I had no fear when I sat next to a king which threatened my life. And as I said, what we see now in the courts, in the legal direction, is because I did not have a fear. And unfortunately, what was planned was not seen. There was somebody else who took pictures. They were so calculating that nobody will see. We get him in a corner, in a cafe, in middle of nowhere, we pressurize him, he'll squeak. But out is quick, I gave all my technology to humanity. I teach freely. And then, coincidentally, somebody in the cafe took some pictures, because they never thought there'd be court. The case for us sitting there is just because they're court, they're trying to cover up. Otherwise, before it, there was nothing. Because I have no fear. I cannot lose what I already given. Even a king could not shake me, because I have no fear. I cannot lose. And we see it. This, out of their fear, they set everything up. Because they thought we got him in a corner somewhere nobody knows. The only thing was not calculated, a nosy poker woman who carry a mobile telephone and take pictures and hand it over. That's why we have these. When we release the pictures, we got the cases. Man should not have a fear when he's correct. And man should have no fear when he's correcting even from his physicality to his soul. No king can move you. Because the rule of the Creator is above anyone who calls himself a king. Thou shalt not steal. You cannot steal from yourself. When you steal from yourself, you create fear. And then they create you punishments, confession boxes, and the rest. When you start creating a condition of fear, it means I cannot give to my soul. Give to your soul. And then you receive more back because then it collects. If you cannot do it in the physical dimension, do it through the emotion, that because you receive more internally in your brain than you receive physically by your body. And then it elevates the soul. You just walk off. This is what we don't understand. This is what have been used to control us. The bogeyman. And the bogeyman is us against giving our own soul. We are not preaching. Now we understand the process. We have to be able to use it. Otherwise, we haven't understood. Don't have a fear. Rejoice to what you have. This is what I have. I need to give to my own soul. Love thy neighbor, which is the closest in my soul. I told you, is the gap between your heart and your brain, and the voice box is in there. Change it. Elevate it through the vibration of the soul of the physicality. I love you, my soul. I live you, and I love with you, and I adore you. And then see what the soul will give back to you to live. No fear. Many world leaders who go against the grain and try to change the thing handle this fear, because they know what they do is correct. Those who do for certain reasons, for their own ego, we see them going to demise. Those who do it because of the understanding of their position, are there to serve, they become everlasting. Then you become one of those yourself. Use your voice, because now you know what the voice is. Give more from the physicality towards the dimension of the soul that itself will give. You even find out your voice changes, you'll find out your emotion changes, because now you're feeding it. It's the way of feeding your soul through the strength of the field of the physicality. Because the voice box is the interaction of physicality with the dimension of the fields of the soul. What do you do when you see a lover and you say, I love you? He loves you back. You enjoy the pleasure of the touch, the cuddle. Do that with your soul, and he embraces you. Never have a fear. In the space, there is no corner to hide from fear.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. When you were saying all this, it was coming into my mind, you know, seeing when you're like a kid and suddenly you say something and people makes you feel like what you're saying is not right, and then you lost your trust. And I remember happening that you said something you thought it was right, but because you feel you're nothing, you gave the power to the other people because you thought you weren't right. And then time passed by and the event happened, and I realized what I said was right. And I didn't, you know, I lost that sense of trust of myself.
You see, I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And in so many ways, I understand, not 99% understand, 100% of it. But try to use is one of the ways to, you see in the churches, they go and say hallelujah and the rest of it shouting and louder, and they all get charged up. Now,
Yeah.
instead of doing to something which is not there, do it to your own soul, and you find out how you get charged up. And how you become more effective in your life. Having a fear, it gets you much different direction of life.
I just want to say something in terms, this is important, because unconsciously we create this imprint in our bodies of our emotions. And if we don't change that imprint by understanding and transforming that imprint in the body, you cannot shift, because it's like energetic, it's still there. So I've been, everything what you said, I've been trying, but I realize if I don't go to the core of the issue and see it in this life, I cannot change it and shift it. It's all theory.
There is two ways to do it. One is to trust yourself, and one is not to have a fear. And trusting you can give to your soul, and with it you can give to your physicality. The people who get abused, they're always told that there's something wrong with you, that we abuse you. It's your fault. And in a way you do it to your physicality through your emotion. And that's what you got to stop. Or that's what you have to learn, to elevate your soul through your soul of physicality. No machine can do it for you. Because what happens when the machine is not there? You have, it's not just you. The human race has been subjected to this all the time. We become so good at it that we do it unconsciously. We are not conscious of what we are doing. When we become aware of our conduct and why we do it and the way it happens, and sometimes we don't see it for years. And sometimes a flick of a second, it changes our life.
So if we're going back to what we were, someone said, how can we help? So basically by shifting one little pebble, shifting the structure, because we change the way how we exist in here. We helping
just try to understand the operation of your soul and your physicality, and you walk out of anywhere, anything.
Yeah, but it maybe sounds crazy what I'm saying. It seems like I get more strength to do it for humanity than do it for myself. It's always looking, the motivation to like.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the wrong way to put it, but I'm gonna
It's okay. I'm okay.
Maybe it answers you one way, or it brings something else into life. You said you can do it for the others, but not for yourself.
Right.
When you do it for the others, what do you see and what do you get?
An existence, sense of existence.
Exactly. You get attention. So now convert that to yourself. Give the attention to yourself.
That came to me in a position like knowing that this I created this is my universe and I'm the only one.
You want to be confirmed and appreciated that you
Right.
exist.
That
Why
I
don't you
understand, but
confirm
what
that to yourself?
can I finish this, an idea?
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but imagine if I create this, and all this is a creation of a dream of myself. But I get to this point where, in order for me to see my existence, I have to find this motive to like do things for others because I don't give enough value to my existence. So get it through others because I can. It seems like there is a wall to see myself. So I, it's like the survival, in the plane they teach you, oh, first you need to save yourself and then you save the next two. But then it was hard for me to put the mask first to me. I have to give the mask to someone else. So what is that? You know? It's deep.
Try to elevate your own soul to your physicality. Appreciate the beauty of your existence and what you can give to your soul. And then come back to us in a couple of weeks. And then we'll see. Nothing else. You don't need to do anything else.
No, I know it sounds like very painful. Sorry, I apologize to everybody. I'm good. I'm not depressed. I'm
We are
very
all good.
sensitive.
We are all good. That's the beauty of it.
No, I know. I'm just clarifying. If I cry, it's because I'm sensitive, but I'm strong because I'm going through this, and I know I'm gonna reach destination because the bravery is to going through these painful things, but knowing that uh, I'm gonna feel it, the appreciation, like what you're saying. I understand it, but it's not register. You know, it's not.
Open a bank account and put in the bank account of the soul.
Yeah.
Then it'll
The
register.
currency.
The currency.
Yeah. the, yeah, I've been saying that love is the currency, and maybe it seems like it's real because to have abundance of the currency in my bank account, I have to have the love within.
Try to ask Jalal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you indeed. Any other questions shall be called it a day. We are nearly 3.5 hours into it.
Yes, I think you've earned your keep for today, Mr. Keshe.
I hope today many of us understood the first step in what I call zero-time communication, the instrument and the principle behind it. And it goes back to the operation of the soul. Collective, we gather to be able to receive collectively what we gather together. This one of the crucial points in the depth of the space. Very few short teaching, but one of the most powerful teachings. Without communication in space, we do not exist in so many ways to be able to confirm our own existence. And this way of confirmation changes communication only with the humanity, but the force of the universal community. It's the key to, because each one will receive the same message, but converts it according to them that doesn't understand. That is the time, there's a problem, there is a love, there is a need for a change. But changing my vocabulary is different way, but because the emotion in the sense of the soul has transferred it Doesn't matter what language you speak, what strength, you all absorb this. Thank you very much, Rick. We call it a day, and we meet next week. And would like to, as I say, Happy New Year to the Chinese community. It's their New Year. Wish to be with you and celebrate it as a celebration of the New Year, as we are with every New Year in different part of the world. We asked for, before we go out, there was a Chinese translation of the Earth Council. If any of them are there, they want to read it before we close. We don't have anybody from the Chinese community because they have two, the modern or the ancient, the old Chinese translation has been received as well by the council. And Happy New Year to all of you, wherever you are.
I'm not sure who would be responsible for that. Parvis, would you know about that, or who would it?
It's Lisa who handles these things.
Lisa McDonald, or the other Lisa from... Okay, Lisa, can you say something about that?
Mr. Keshe, I know it's the traditional Chinese, whereas the simplified Chinese had already been read. So I think it is, because it's quite confusing for somebody who doesn't understand, but the written and the read are two different things. So, or the written and the spoken are sort of different things. So I think it's the Cantonese that might need to read, which I think is Christina?
It's Christina or Cha-Cha?
I'm not quite sure because they both worked on it. So, because...
So they must understand it. If any of them present, they would like to read. You're not present. Is Cha-Cha there? Okay, no problem. We don't see them. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. And thanks to everybody for participating today. Klaus.
New Year.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Klaus. And that wraps it up for the 211th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, February 15th, 2018. And I believe we have some music to end it by. Thank you, Flint.